Okay, we'll get started right about now. Thank you everyone for coming to today's water cooler chat, where we talk about all things Livepeer, whether it's broadcasting, delegating, or orchestrating. This is the place to come and ask questions and get answers from people in the community. And come join us on Discord here. So if this is your first time, please raise your hand. I'll invite you up to stage where you can ask questions. We do have a Q&A guest speaker kind of thing, pretty laid back, but we got Swgee, who's going to be doing a bit of Q&A just after we do introductions and kick off here. So we'll go ahead and get started with introductions. So I'll start with myself. I'm Titan, been running the Titan node orchestrator since April of 2021. And today my topic is going to be about the performance and reliability dashboard that Elite Encoder and B079, I think that's what it is, Brad are working on. So I'd like to get an update about that and see how things are progressing for the grant. Also, we got approved for the first phase of the grant, so we'll report on that shortly. That's my introduction. I'll move on to Frank. Would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
Yeah, sure. Hi guys, I'm Frank and I'm running with Sienna Ultima Ratio node since May 21 and I have no special topic. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you for joining us, Frank. Mike, Zupper, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
Nice. Mike Zupper, running Zode Orchestrator since February. No topics today. Just curious to see if anyone brings up Arbitrum, Nitro, and any reliability stuff. I know we've had a whole slew of issues this weekend, but just curious to see what others' experiences were.
Yeah, Arbitrum Nitro upgrade will be very interesting. So yes, I see that people's endpoints and RPC endpoints might have to change and things, or not. I don't know. That's a good question. Thank you for joining us, Mike. John with Elite Encoder, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic? You're muted, John. Are you with us? I don't think your mic is working. I'll get him to come back. Papa Bear, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
I do not have a topic today, but I am Papa Bear and I run the solar farm orchestrator, and I'm really just listening in, and yep, that's it. Just like to be here.
Very good. Thank you for joining us. Ftkuhnsman, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
Hey guys, Joey here, Ftkuhnsman node. No topic today, just listening in, and we'll contribute where I can.
Very good. Thank you for joining us, Joey. John with Elite Encoder, are you with us again?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah,
had nap issue.
Go ahead.
Hi, it's John with Elite Encoder. I've been operating a node since October of last year. Recently started getting involved with development of Livepeer. Topics I want to cover today are the reliability dashboard and then the Arbitrum migration or Arbitrum Nitro upgrade. Like what do we need to do is if we're a full node operator, if anyone knows anything about that.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll jump into those topics as well. Thank you for joining us, John. Swgee, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic or a question you might have? Although you're our guest Q&A, so we're going to jump into you right after the introduction. So just a quick introduction of yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Steven, Swgee on Discord. I'm Senior Marketing Manager with the core team. And yeah, I was here to, I'm here to do the Q&A and just listen in, contribute where I can.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out of your day to join us for a Q&A. Thank you so much. Mo, would you like to introduce yourself and a topic?
Sure. Hi, I'm Mo. I met Eric from this project in 2018, and I haven't really followed him much since until Discord just told me to check out this water cooler. But I've gathered so far that you guys run nodes, and the project does eventually has something on Arbitrum. My day jobs involve investing on behalf of the Cosmos and Polygon ecosystem, so we have plenty of infrastructure operators that are active there, and I guess just hoping to learn if I can get any of them involved in your guys' community, if they could be of use.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I don't believe we met before, so welcome to the community. And
I'm just happy the project's alive.
Very cool. Yeah, come ask questions as we go through them together, and if you have any, like I said, just hop into the conversation. This is the water cooler chat, so it's pretty laid back, and you can just have a conversation and learn as we go. So we're really glad to have you, and thank you so much for coming. Transmetel, would you like to introduce yourself on a topic?
What up? I'm Zach. I'm with Xenon Graviton. My boss runs a node. I do not. I'm just here to learn. So I just got invited up to the stage, so I'm glad to be here.
Very cool. Great to have you up here, Transmetel. Were you up here last week?
Yeah, with Evan. Yep.
Yeah.
Talking about VODs and stuff like that. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us again. Great to have you. Okay, great. And I got the other people in the audience invited up, but they can kind of come in and we go. So I've got a list of topics we can obviously cover, but we're going to jump straight into the Q&A with Swgee and jump into this. So Swgee, I'm going to give you the floor right now. I have a number of questions. I have about, I usually have about 6 lined up. So what I usually do is I kick off with a couple just to get started, and then I open up to the floor where we can do Q&A and have a conversation. So Swgee, tell us a little bit about your role, what you're working on with Livepeer currently.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. As I said earlier, I'm a senior marketing manager for the Livepeer core team, specifically focused on the ecosystem side. Though honestly, I do things all over, which can include events. Some of you might have seen me at the community summit running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to make sure things are working. I've done a lot of content side, kind of helped to launch Livepeer Studio, and then of course being around Discord, renaming the channels and stuff like that. So doing all sorts of things, but just focused mostly on trying to grow the ecosystem, so more people will become like this.
Quick interruption. Sorry. There's a whole conversation about emojis for orchestrators in Discord. Would you happen to be the person that can upload those?
I actually am. Yes, I caught that, but I was lazy. So, but I am the one who
It's
can
all
do that.
good.
So.
All good. I saw a lot of people moaning, and I'd love to use my emoji too. So I know Marco was probably the one, or somebody was working on that. But all right, sorry, Titan, go ahead.
No, don't be sorry. You jump in when you need. So, that's a bit of a segue. That's a good segue to get going. Let's talk a little bit about the Discord reorg. Were you a part of the Discord reorg, and what were some of the ideas behind it, if you were?
Yes, I absolutely was. I was the one who actually implemented it at the very end, but it was a collaborative effort. We had some different people in the community, both the startups and Livepeer community that we kind of brought in to give some fresh feedback, and then the community itself. Just kind of going through the whole thing and trying to figure out how to make things more, I'd say more useful, but really just try some new thing. So some of the channels that have been around for a while have been really effective and useful. The community grants one, Orchestrator support, a bunch of the other ones, but we needed to make some room for the Livepeer Studio to kind of join the Discord and have a space, and also revamp all of the permissions because they were a mess. So we kind of just built up an idea, ran it past a ton of people, tried to see what would work, and then I went through and did all the back end stuff. So like the choose your role, which is now a thing instead of just verifying. Did that, just kind of get an idea of what kind of roles and people were in the community, and all the others. The other thing I'll say about that is we're constantly tweaking things. So I know I've got a couple of suggested channels we might try out. We switched or renamed to optimize your node for the transcoding one to try to make that a little more focused. And it's really easy to make changes in Discord. So if anybody has ideas, suggestions, let me know. Tag me somewhere, and we'll consider them. Because want to make it as useful as possible to the community.
Very cool. Well, on that segue, does anyone have any questions so far for Swgee? I have a lot, but I'd like to open it up in case someone does.
I wanted to make a recommendation.
Sure.
I think I might have talked to you before on a DM. I'm not sure if we're the same guy, but the channels, I love the idea of bringing a Livepeer Studio channel in. I think what we could also do is maybe have two separate channels, one for just broadcasting with the Livepeer application itself. I like to call the open source broadcaster. I don't know how you would name that, but separate that out from the Livepeer Studio, because I think they're two totally different interfaces for video developers.
And yes, I do remember talking about this, and we've been trying to myself and Meredith, who's the head of marketing for the core team, been trying to how we've always used the broadcaster terminology is a little confusing sometimes. So we're trying to make that make more sense. I think the way you put it is open source broadcaster for people who will use the software and do everything themselves, as opposed to somebody who uses Livepeer Studio is a good way to think about it, and it's definitely not reflected. So that one's one of that was actually the one I was thinking of whenever I was saying that we've got some suggestions.
Cool. Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot more support needed sometimes for people trying to get the software running, or even like with testnet configurations and stuff like that might help onboard new broadcasters. And that'll help a lot.
Yeah, also to consider too is the difference between running a broadcaster and like managing it, the cost associated. I think there's always like, how do I run this port? Why do I get this flag working? But there are also issues where, hey, how much deposit, how much reserve? Like, how do I know how much it's going to cost? Like, I think those probably could be separated as well.
So you think that's more of maybe like the how to get it started, how to run it is more of a classic support kind of idea, and the others are just the general like, what is this? Why should I even do this? Kind of general questions.
I'm just throwing out there what I saw. I'm not sure I have an answer per se, but I was just thinking that there's definitely three buckets: studio related, running a broadcaster, and then like paying for it, set up, supporting it.
Yeah, and we talked about creating like a broadcaster tutorial, which is probably outside of the scope of Discord. But I do think if you had that channel set up for just open source broadcasters, maybe you could even, like Mike was saying, have like sub threads on it or something. I don't know if you'd want to make it too detailed, but it would just be good to have that feedback loop with people who are trying to come in. I know a lot of folks will just jump in the general chat to get help with broadcasting like that or other places, and that's a good idea.
Don't we already have a broadcasting channel though? It's under network.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's just so generic because you see a lot of people talk about using the API, and you see a few people talking about using the open source software, and that just gets kind of hidden by all the API discussion. And it's also not as well documented, I think, as it could be, and that's where that tutorial comes into play. But if you had a thread that was just for open source broadcasting, I think there'd be a wealth of information there to go through and build tutorials off of and stuff.
Yeah, I also know that the documentation is a pain point that is being worked on because
It's improved a lot.
yeah, it's still got some place to go in, but a lot
Yeah.
of effort's being put into that. Because I know I've seen the same thing that you have, that sometimes people are just very confused. Setting up broadcasters specifically.
I'll open it up for some other folks to have ideas. Thanks.
Oh no, go
Can I
ahead.
ask a quick noob question?
Mhm.
I've heard a number of different roles across the Livepeer ecosystem at this point. Which one involves GPUs?
So that would be the orchestrator or transcoder, which would be somebody who works with an orchestrator who doesn't have to do all the other setup and can just contribute their GPUs to.
So a lot of us on
processing.
this phone are the orchestrators.
Yeah.
What was that, Mike?
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Steve, but a lot of folks on this call run orchestrator transcoder nodes. So I think that's the dominant role in this water cooler chat right now.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah, and it, the people that are video mining or are interchangeably changed with transcoder and then orchestrator. There's a lot of different terminologies, but yeah, we're all video miners essentially in this pool or in this chat.
I'll also say that like one of the things that I'm personally kind of focused on is just kind of making all this terminology make more sense to people more quickly. So like video mining is a good description, but I don't know how often I sometimes get confused people to like if we say, oh, you can become a video miner. That's like, well, okay, now that explains, now we have to explain that, and then orchestrator, and maybe transcoder, maybe transcoder, and people get confused. So something to kind of keep an eye out is more and more we're going to try to like the marketing team for the core team was going to try to streamline those so that there are fewer terms and people can just learn a small handful, orchestrator, delegator, a broadcaster, maybe one or two others, and then you're just good.
I'd encourage you not to redefine them. So like broadcaster is an industry term. So you would try to want to stick to it, or at least come up with an equivalent for the Livepeer specific reason it's different. Like, you know what I mean? It should be semantically the same, but with some nuance. And that's where it could be specific to Livepeer. But redefining the term against what the industry standards are would be very confusing.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. It's more of being clear when we say it, if it does mean that, or if it means that slightly different. The actual confusion comes with the difference between people who are an app or a project or a platform that feeds demand into the network, which we don't really because sometimes call a broadcaster, but sometimes not. And then somebody who runs a broadcasting, node using the open source software or API or through Studio. So there's like a lot of different people or who are doing a lot of slightly different things that get conflated as broadcasters. So that's the biggest area of kind of confusion at the moment.
That Livepeer primer video was pretty good. Maybe there should be a spin-off with like the personas involved, something similar in nature, a little bite-sized chunk of video content that would give that clear, crisp definition.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, Authority Null, I think, is the one that created that little commercial. He could be hired again to do.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he's the one that created it. Maybe he can.
shameless plug.
Yeah, shout out to Ben with Authority Null node for creating that awesome commercial. Maybe he almost needs to go through and that 10-minute primer that Livepeer has on their website, just convert that into a modern video and have explanations of the different roles. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, we definitely want to have some more video content. It kind of makes sense for Livepeer to do more video content. Don't know why.
Message.
Definitely. Cool. Steve, Swgee, what other events are you planning? I know you talked a little bit about the. Were you involved with the community summit in Amsterdam? And if so, how do you think that went? And what are you planning for the future?
Yeah, so I was definitely involved in that. Mostly day of was where I did the most stuff. So if anybody saw a tall guy running around dealing with AV stuff, that was me. But I think it went really, really well. Just getting to have so many different people from the community do presentations or like break out and do. And I was walking around the whole event, just hearing everybody, just having conversations, sharing great ideas. It was wonderful. And we've done like nothing quite like that, but some other events since then. An upcoming one, we're going to have a presence at DEF CON in Bogota. I think that's the next one. And we're looking into maybe doing a side event, TBD, but that's something we're working on right now. There's also, I believe, ETH Berlin is coming up, and I believe we'll have Livepeer is going to do something there as well. So I know those two are coming up. ETH Online as well. I'm not 100% sure if that's confirmed, but it's confirmed, it's happening. But what we'll be doing for it. But yeah, so those are some of the events that are coming up. More information will be released, specifics when they're figured out. But I'll have hands in helping all of those, hopefully succeed.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited for those. I really enjoyed the Amsterdam meetup, and can't wait to go to more as they come up. Especially events where Livepeer is just at least present, so we can go and.
I have a comment here. There was a renaming discussion that came up. It looks like November 29th, where Thol was talking about possibly renaming orchestrators and things like that. And it's it's one of those hidden threads. I was trying to find the link to actually link to it in the water cooler, but I don't know what I clicked, but I see, at least I can see it now. It says a renaming discussion, which popped up as a sub thread under water cooler side chat. I'm just wondering, can everyone else see that, or is that just something that I can see? Like if you look at the water cooler's side chat, do you see like a sub thread under there, or is that just something because I was in that thread where I can see it?
Renaming discussion, I see it, yeah.
Oh, you do? I was just curious because I was like, I've never seen where I can't just copy a link and paste that in there, but it kind of, I just thought I'd throw that in there because the discussion has come up in the past, and I think once it was all said and done, we just kind of decided to leave where it was. But if anyone wants to read through that, it's now you can look in the water cooler side chat and read through it. It is a short little thread.
See it too.
I'll just say hi. No, what do you say? Bump. That's the word. Bump.
There you go.
So I bumped the thread. There you go.
Top. Yeah.
To the top. Okay, it's open again.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Just a little confused.
That's all right. I just bumped the thread. Well, yeah, because Thol has a lot of experience with this stuff. He's the one that created Mist Server, who Livepeer bought out or co-founded, I should say, or co-founded. Sorry, Thol. Yeah, he has a pretty clear idea of what naming should be. I think he had pretty logical reasons behind it, but renaming everything in the ecosystem would be a huge overhaul and a giant challenge.
Oh yeah, no, but ideally most of them will stay the change. They'll stay the same.
Yeah.
And I can as much assure that as I can assure anything.
Yeah, and
most of them just work too. So
then all of Titan Node's tutorial videos would be completely outdated, which would be
don't tempt me. That would be.
That's just that's a new grant and more work for you to pump Livepeer up.
Yeah,
fresh videos.
Yeah, Big shout out if you're watching the recording on this YouTube. Please subscribe, like, comment. Thank you so much. Great. Okay. Where was I going with this? Yeah. So we got events coming up. Any other questions for that from the community? Swgee, what is your biggest challenge since you've joined Livepeer? What in your opinion?
Good question. The Web3 industry space, however you want to say it, is totally unlike any others. And I've heard a lot of different, I've dabbled in a lot of different industries, worked in several. Every one of them will say that. Most of the time it's wrong. It is correct in this case. Like a lot of the skills and experience that I have from doing marketing for years are useful but not directly translatable. So, which has been challenging but also really cool because it's allowed me to come in and go, okay, this is no longer you put something out there and your marketing high thrown and people react to it and leads flow in, and no, it's not that. It's far more interacting with the community, trying to give information and tools and a voice to the community, and it's all a lot more or a lot less under the control of somebody like me than as like a marketer, which is definitely more challenging, but it's also a lot more interesting because it's no longer as staid and boring.
Wouldn't that be true though for everybody in your shoes, right? Like this is like the new frontier, like uncharted territory for a lot of folks and for a lot of sectors of this industry too, technical or business related.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I can't claim to be unique in that one for sure. The only people who can't claim it as a challenge are the ones who have already been doing it. So that's definitely the biggest challenge. The other one, the other biggest challenge is Livepeer's really trying to continue, pushing forward and growing even as the market is slightly on fire, and doing a lot of different things and trying to test a lot of different things, and that's trying to continually keep the focus on testing and then doing the things that are working and then not doing the others is always a challenge because there's always a tendency to just once a project is started to try to finish it out, and sometimes it's like that project's not needed anymore, so just stop.
Swgee, when did you first hear about Livepeer, and how did you end up joining the core team?
When did I? Last year, midway through last year, something like that. I was actually a bit of a like crypto skeptic for a long time. I didn't really get it, and at some point, I don't remember what it was, but one of my friends had said something that made me a little interested. So I started looking at different projects, and my filter was like, this needs to do something. This needs to do something useful. If I can't figure out what the value is, if it's seven kinds of jargon and just it doesn't make sense, then I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. And Livepeer was one of the ones I came across that seemed to be doing something useful, something real, something that could compete now with incumbents in videos infrastructure specifically. It's like, okay, wow, that's really interesting. And I kind of kept it in my back of my mind. And then later on, whenever I was thinking of moving on from the job I had time, I checked back in and turned out Livepeer was had some bunch of openings for people who did work like I do. So I was like, all right, give it a go. So just applied and yeah, got the job.
Very cool. Yeah, it's I like the idea of Livepeer providing something very very useful. That's what attracted me to it as well in the first place. Is like the fact that it's not just another Ponzi coin with no fundamentals behind it, which I think pushes away a lot of people in this industry because they tend to rise up quickly in the news and they tend to rise up quickly on CoinMarketCap. And I feel like people judge projects based on where they are on CoinMarketCap. So it's tough to filter through that stuff. I think we're getting better at it as an industry. So that's really cool. So I'm glad that we've converted you. That's awesome. How much time do you have? I know we've been coming on this for a while, and we started late, so I want to respect your time.
Oh, I'm so good. I was telling you earlier, I got some contractors are coming back here in a few, so I might have to blip out whenever that happens, but yeah, I show back up yet, so I'm good.
Sure. Any other
Can I ask
questions?
a question that's kind of related to this past question? Is with like the utility thing. This is more broadly about Livepeer. And I mean, yeah, I generally agree with what you guys are saying. I've been in crypto a long time, and it took me a long time. I got in 2013 under the unbanked narrative, which neither Bitcoin nor Litecoin has really done a lot of, but some of these stable coins have lately. And it took me many years to accept the fact that you kind of need speculation to build the liquidity for these unbanked people that I would like to see banked by whether a stablecoin or an actual volatile crypto asset. But yeah, anyway, so from the utility side, a lot of you guys obviously probably have some IT backgrounds. There's a famous saying: nobody ever got fired for buying IBM, or updated version, nobody ever got fired for using AWS. And James Prestich, who founded Storage or whatever, however you say it, once said that like they had a working product that was like 50% cheaper than AWS, yet nobody would consider it because of that like risk consideration. Is that something you guys suffer from or face in Livepeer today?
Oh, absolutely. The biggest thing that I always try to keep in mind for things like for infrastructure specifically is that a lot of the time the alternatives work, and if they work and they might not work as well, they might be too expensive or something, but the company's not bleeding a lot, then people will just ignore it. So the people who will try something new are making something new. And it's why Livepeer has turned to really focusing on Web3, both because that's, the kind of people who, all of us want to be building with, but also building new things. We're much more likely to try new things, and also much more likely to want the things they try to be actually decentralized. But when you think of a established, say a streaming website of some sort, say a niche streaming website of some sort. If everything they're doing works, they're not likely to look around until you, as an infrastructure provider, can do everything better or everything up to the same level and some of it better. So you got to be just as reliable. You got to be cheaper as inexpensive. I like to use the term cheap. You have to be, have all of the uptime. You have to have a track record. You have to be easy to use, and all these other things. It's just getting a lot of dominoes all lined up. It's definitely a struggle. The nice thing about with Livepeer is that there are a lot of people in Web3 that want to build with decentralized tools, and that gives huge amounts of feedback, which is really, really useful to the product team to keep improving things. And over time, that's going to make it easier and easier to close the gap on all these different things. or sometimes just message around it. The broadcaster reliability dashboard that y'all were talking about earlier is a great idea for that reason, because it's an area that we don't provide a lot of metrics around right now, and it's the kind of thing that the people who are interested but want to make sure that their site would be have the same uptime, the same stability as if they use AWS. Like, they need to see that stuff. So yeah, it's definitely a concern. It's something that it's definitely a struggle, but it also means there's a huge opportunity that once everything is lined up product wise and we all figure out how to talk about this correctly, you can just really go crazy and get tons of people onboard onto the network really quickly.
Yeah, that's I like that. Thank you for the little comment there on the reliability and performance dashboard. We're going to jump into that after your Q&A, which is exciting because we've made some progress on it, which is amazing. And yeah, that's actually one of the pitches for it, is comparing AWS to Livepeer. But at the same time, like, I don't think Livepeer is focusing. I've talked to Doug about this. And their Web 2 customers is not the primary target of Livepeer. Those people live in the Web 2 world. They like the Web 2 world. Decentralization doesn't matter to them. And so switching them over to a new provider like Livepeer is going to be a very tough sell. So Livepeer is definitely going to be more focused. At least, actually, I'll get you to comment on this. Because from my understanding, Livepeer wants to focus more and more on just Web3 applications, because not just Web3, but more on Web3 because of it's growing, and we want to grow with them and the ecosystem of and the theory of decentralization. Is that where the marketing team is heading, you think, is really focusing on Web3 builders?
Oh, 100%. It's if somebody who's building a Web 2 platform finds Livepeer and wants to try it out, absolutely. We'll talk to them. That's cool. But that's not who we're seeking. Exactly as you say, Web3 is growing. Livepeer wants to be the video infrastructure for Web3. That's the goal. As Web3 grows, as more breakout applications that use video are built and are, ideally built with Livepeer, that will make the entire space grow, and it will, help the Livepeer ecosystem grow, and the network get more growth as well. So that's entirely the focus right now, and I think it's especially savvy for the reason that I was saying earlier. Like, the people who have a solution that's working, who are happy with AWS, are, just as you said, hard to sell to. So why not go to the people who are hungry for a decentralized way to add video to their application? It's those people will give feedback. They will build with something. They will, try out new things, and that's who we want, and we want them to grow. So that's where all of our focus is.
Does someone else have a question? Yeah, it's really exciting. I was really excited to hear that Lens Protocol has decided to use Livepeer as their infrastructure. For those of you who haven't looked into Lens, I would really highly recommend it. Decentralized social media. LensTube is their if you could take a guess, their YouTube disruptor. I believe they use Livepeer for their transcoding. So, which I think is a big win from our side.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the entire Lens team and Lens community is really exciting, really flourishing. Really, just a lot of cool people there. So it's a nice partner for the Livepeer ecosystem to have.
I think we've made a big investment in Lens from the Polygon side. Is that running? That's up and running live now, right?
Yes.
The ID part, not this. Or I guess my question is, when-ish can we anticipate this streaming YouTube thing?
It's live. You just go to LensTube, and it's already integrated with Livepeer. It uses Livepeer for all its transcoding.
Cool. All right, thanks.
I think it's lenstube.xyz, if I'm not mistaken. That is the Lens protocol version of YouTube, and every video on there has been transcoded by Livepeer.
Yep, that's the URL. This is cool.
Because I believe the Pareto distribution, I've always found, I did a big study on it one time, and I always found to be very true how, 20% of your customers produce 80% of your revenue, and these kind of distribution curves of value to usage, and it's very common in nature and all these things. And so, Livepeer has a lot of apps that use it. They got like DJ places, artist painting apps. Like, I think Livepeer has quite a few apps now. Most of them are fairly unpopular, or at least growing or getting developed. But LensTube, the Lens protocol, I think is for me currently one of the more bullish protocols out there, and I'm happy to see they're using Livepeer as their video infrastructure, right? Do you have any comments on how that went? Were you involved with that at all, Swgee?
Oh, that was actually one that I've been a little bit more involved in it lately, but no, it basically just got announced, and I was like everybody else, being like, "Oh heck, that's cool!" And then I think Drake also on the marketing team and said, "Oh yeah, they're doing this LensTube thing." And I'm like, "What? That's cool." So I found out the same way everybody else did on that one.
Very cool. So we've been at this about 45 minutes. I'll usually ask a pretty big question at the end, and it's the same question for everyone. So for everyone who has been for the water coolers, it's like, oh, here comes this question again. But I like to ask this question as we start wrapping up, because I like to get different points of views, and it's almost an impossible question to answer, but I always like hearing other people's points of views. And so the question is, and this is your interpretation, so this is not representative of Livepeer, but this is your ideas. Could you tell us what is Web3, and what does Web3 mean to you?
Okay, so to me, Web3 is almost a correction for Web 2. Because to me, the original, Web 1 was very open. Anybody could, put up a site, publish anything. Especially in the early days, the select few nerds that could find them were very interested. There was open dialogue. Then the behemoths of Web 2 kind of came along and throttled a lot of this openness and the desire for profit. Web 3 to me is an opportunity to reclaim what was good about Web 1 without losing the functionality of Web 2. Web 1 was just read, Web 2 is read write. We want to keep that, and then adding more functionality on top of it to kind of return power to the people, if I could be wrong, to return power to individuals as opposed to like 6 individuals that own certain companies. That to me is why I got really interested in it. Like, that's speculation, not any, like a lot of the other reasons that some people have. So I think people who are going to listen to this are not not crazy speculators either, because Livepeer is definitely a utility, a real work kind of protocol. But yeah, that's the reason. I think Web3 will kind of redeem some of the things about the internet and make it better for regular people.
What happens when Web 2 behemoths become Web 3 behemoths? How does that play out?
We hope that the structure of Web3 will make it so they can't really. You think of, I mean, this gets into the areas where I'm less versed, but you think of at least like venture capital. Venture capital with an old style, SaaS company would get some huge percentage, and then they would just have that forever until they decided to sell, and they would wield huge amounts of power over it. Nowadays, they get with Web3, they'll get some tokens, and those might be diluted by emissions, or they might over time, like they don't give you the same level of control as a bunch of stock does. I hope that it doesn't really happen like that, and more of the value does get to the users, but it's a little outside my area of expertise there.
No, that's curious. It was an interesting take on it. I don't think I've heard anyone say it the way you have. And I'm old enough to have seen Web 1 and the Web 2 and the Web 3 evolution coming. So interesting.
I'll say it's always I hope that Web3 doesn't turn out exactly like Web2 in that way, because that would be disappointing. But I'm optimistic.
Very cool. Awesome. Any other questions for Swgee?
One last super hard-hitting question. So back to the emojis that we were talking about at the beginning. Marco created all those. Is he good to go and upload those? He just wanted to, I think, make sure you were good with it, and he'll do it because he's got all the images. If that's approved.
So that's the thing I don't actually know. I need to go through and see if I need anything else to upload them.
Oh no, he'll do it. He'll do it because he says he's got the access to do it, but he just wanted to make sure that he's got the go ahead from. I guess he wanted to make sure he had the go ahead from you.
Yeah.
Or I can let you guys chat about it. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. We'll chat about that a little bit. Let's see, how many is it? Just one.
That's org priorities right there, man.
Yeah, Marco and I will talk about it and make sure. I believe they should be.
No worries. I'll let you guys talk about it.
Yeah, we'll do.
Very cool. Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll end the Q&A session here, and then we'll move into the rest of the community call where we'll talk about all the topics we went over. But I just wanted to give Swgee a big thank you for coming in today and doing this Q&A and letting us ask questions and informing us here for the people that have joined, and as well as for the recording for the people on YouTube. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And if you've got time, obviously, please feel free to stick around and just listen in or contribute in the rest of the topics we'll go through. But I know that you said you might have someone coming in at short notice, so we'll end the Q&A there, and we'll move on. So thanks again, Swgee.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Let's hop into some topics here. Arbitrum Nitro got brought up twice. Let's talk about it. Mike Zupper, what have you heard? Let's start with you. You were first. So what questions do you have, and what have you been seeing?
Well, it's not necessarily Nitro specific. I just know, working with the community on RPC endpoints and just trying to make sure things are reliable. Over the last 5 days, I think quite a few folks have been having some challenges with ARB nodes. And again, I didn't know if it was related to nitro or some of the upcoming planning. I know we had some gas spikes, so I just really wanted to know what folks are seeing, if they're experiencing node issues, if they're, if it's just us being, super, panicky. Like, I don't know. So I just wanted to hear what folks were seeing recently. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why my LA node just isn't getting off the ground. I've tried different RPC endpoints and all these kinds of things.
When you say off the ground, you mean just getting a lot of work? Is that what you mean? Or
Yeah,
not
like
seeing
it's like
any work?
Does anyone
I
have?
think LA, yeah, LA is pretty much like test streams only for the most part from everyone that I've spoken to and from what I see myself. So it's kind of, I think it goes back to maybe something I brought up the other day, or a chat or two ago, about like there seems to always be one ingest node that seems to be out of rotation. Maybe it's not officially out of rotation, but LA has been like that for several weeks at least, and maybe longer. So it's not just you.
Yeah, I can
Again,
answer that.
I'm seeing the same thing, and I think I've heard from other people the same. So
It
sorry, I
got
don't know who.
taken out on the 26th of last month, as far as I
Oh, there
can
we
tell.
go. So we're about a month, or a little over a
And
month now. Yeah.
Singapore got taken out 17 days ago. So Singapore and LAX are where you shouldn't be seeing actual streams, but test streams are always being sent, of course.
Will test streams be sent regardless of
Yes.
of your endpoint hookup?
What do you mean your endpoint hookup? You mean
Well, I don't
your
know
RPCs?
if your endpoint is just down, will you still get test streams?
I don't think you will get anything if your RPC endpoint is down. But if your OS functioning, you will get test streams in any region, even if the ingest node is taken out for actual work.
Right.
Because the test system is separate from the actual ingest points.
I do get a lot of Marco, and maybe you can clarify this, because the segments that come in that are like 147 segments long, or the streams that are 147 wow, 147. Let's try it one more time. 147 segments long, and also these 59 segment streams that come in. I believe that those were like part of the E2E testing that Livepeer does internally, because I do see those coming into LA. And I actually see those hitting a lot of my nodes. So do you know about those, and does that, I'm assuming, come from a different, not from like the actual ingest node, but maybe the same places the test streams are coming from?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
I think so. Yeah.
Because yeah, those I definitely get, but again, those are they're 147 segments.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the good news is that next month we will have some people from Livepeer over in the Leiden office, and we will talk about these issues, about how we're going to inform orchestrators better in the status of ingest nodes, keeping them in the loop. I've been pushing for this behind the scenes, but luckily next month we will talk about this.
I think I speak for most orchestrators. We look forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
Sorry, I kind of derailed the conversation about the Arbitrum Nitro upgrade. But is there going to be a big switchover for orchestrators when the upgrade happens?
There will be an outage. There's a reported outage, so there's going to be a downtime, and then there will be Arbitrum's network comes back online, and then our orchestrators shouldn't have to do anything. Obviously, if you're running an Arbitrum node, there will be some things you have to do in terms of upgrading software. I would encourage some testing, database backups, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, there will be an impact. There will be an outage, and I'm hoping it's not a long-term outage. But we're at the mercy of Arbitrum's indexer, or their block creation mechanism, since it's still centralized and single-threaded. So just plan to take your orcs down when nitro hits, and then when you see RPC calls going to ARP1 RPC working, then I would say start to bring your stuff back online. But definitely there will be some issues. So if you have stuff to do on the 31st, you better cancel your schedule and keep it open, or at least have your laptop nearby.
When you say 31st, you mean in just 2 days?
Yeah, I think that's what they said, right?
Oh, I've not been following it that closely.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's August 31st, if I'm not mistaken, unless they changed something.
Yeah, that's the date. I've been trying to prepare for it as well because I'm running an Arbitrum full node in Docker. I did a software update they had released last week, but I don't know if there's any other software updates coming. I've also seen in the Arbitrum Discord there's some testnet work going on for Nitro. I'm curious to see, if that was an option for full node operators. If there's anything you could do there, but at the moment, my plan is just to run the latest version and let it ride. If I could find out more information about what might be needed, I can prepare ahead of time.
Well, John, that's interesting you say that. So I had an outage to my RPC node this weekend, and I didn't take that latest patch that they released last week that you upgraded to. So if you didn't take that patch, I suspect your node would have had an outage as well. I think a lot of folks were having problems recently this weekend running their own nodes. That's why I was trying to corroborate if any other node operator for Arbitrum were having the same problems. But so I upgraded my node this morning, and a lot of the issues I saw over the weekend have gone away. So I'm just curious. But as far as your other question with like testnet, so like last weekend, I started working on like getting a Rinkbeat Arbitrum set up, and I had a hell of a time getting it to work. Like it was so many things were failing. There were like errors. It was not pretty, and I kind of figured let it settle. I was going to test it again this week just to see if some updates were made. I saw a lot of activity in Arbitrum as well in their Discord, so um, I'm very worried to say the least about this coming up. But at the same time, this is a freight train. I don't know if I can stop it or anyone can stop it at this point unless there's something broken that Arbitrum finds. But I think we have some rocky roads ahead of us.
Yeah, I mean, I've even considered, if I can't find out any more information, maybe running on a hosted RPC like Alchemy, but we've seen them have issues with this type of thing. I heard they were doing a lot of like recycles on their nodes Alchemy, so I think they've been updating their software, and I did update mine last week, so we didn't have any issues over the weekend that I noticed, but a lot of that time we were running on Alchemy too, so I don't know. But it may be worthwhile to post something in the Arbitrum Discord. From a testnet perspective, I've heard that I think the Rinkeby testnet is being deprecated in favor of Goerli, however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
And I think that's going on the 31st as well. And I don't know. I haven't tried to Livepeer out on Goerli yet for test. We have been testing with Rinkeby for the development on the price per broadcaster. So probably gonna have to move that over this week or today.
Yeah, the big problem I found is like I want to test the database upgrade, right? Like I want to be able to know that my database isn't going to get hosed. You got hundreds of gigs of data there, and when I tried to point my testnet setup, obviously the database didn't match and it wouldn't allow it. So like I don't see a clean way of testing your database migration or upgrade without actually keeping their current software up to date, and then take the outage, get any patch releases that come out the day of, and then bring your database up. Obviously you want to back up, but like that seems like the game plan for the Arbitrum launch for those that are running ARB nodes. And that to me is like frightening.
Wow. Do you expect it to have to resync from scratch with a new database?
No, they have this like seed process now that you could point to a database URL, or you could download the seed database in advance. I'm hoping that your current local database with the current software becomes the seed database. But if you have to re-index, I mean, that'll be a disaster because we'll be down for days then, unless you have an Infura or Alchemy handy. Now, I recently, as of yesterday, purchased another Alchemy or Infura subscription just as a fallback in the event. But I suspect they're going to be down too, right? They'll have an outage for a period of time, and unless the entire ecosystem's okay, our nodes, with Infura, you got a good backup, or you know what I mean. So just don't sleep on this.
Ftkuhnsman, for the community node, what have you done for provisions to get ready for this upgrade?
And did you see any issues this weekend? Sorry.
I am actually in the process of getting a setup on the testnet right now, just to kind of play through this upgrade. That's all I have at the moment. I mean, I didn't necessarily see any issues this weekend, but I wasn't necessarily monitoring for issues. I just noticed I didn't have any significant errors in my orchestrator processes.
Are you running the 1.4.4 version? Because I was running 1.4.0 and they released 1.4.4. John upgraded. He's fine. I didn't. I had an outage this weekend. So I just make sure you take a look at that and pay attention just to be safe.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, I'm excited for the upgrade. Can't wait. We got huge upgrades coming in the next 2.5 weeks. We get a Nitro and Arbitrum and the ETH2 merge on the 15th. So, has anyone seen the LIP released from Varies yet? Has that come out?
I saw it. I read through it. It basically is saying that based on the block frequency that as the halving occurred on Ethereum, and as the L2 merge goes in, there's going to be some, like, the round time, how long it takes for a round to complete is not in sync with the block times that are now on L1. So they wanted to adjust that to match. So they'll basically adjust the frequency, or I forget what they actually called it. But is that your understanding, Titan? Anyone else read through that?
Yeah.
Is that clear?
Yeah, I read through it. I just wondered if I read that. I was just wondering if the LIP voting process has been pushed forward to the next phase yet.
I don't think so.
I saw a draft. There was still a lot of content missing in his LIP. I saw.
What was that, Papa Bear?
I don't think that voting is open on it yet, or it's complete, because I'm pretty sure that at least one of us in here would be aware of it.
Yeah.
If not, then something really fell through the cracks there.
All right.
That might be good to have Vyers on to talk about that, because I read it, and to me, when I see a change like that it all makes sense. But what are the unintended consequences? Like, what does that mean to reward calls? And if you'd have to anticipate,
were you here? I'll just stop you real quick. Were you here for the discussion with him 2 water coolers ago?
I don't recall.
Yeah, we spent an hour.
I did hear about him.
Yeah, we spent an hour on it. We walked through a lot of it, and then it just so happened it was the recording that my recorder didn't record, and so
jeez,
it was such a good conversation, and it didn't record anything.
Well, those are the questions that I had. I'm sad that I missed it, but when I read it, I read it this weekend, so it wasn't like I had a chance to go through it. But it sounds cool. It's interesting. It sounds minor, but at the same time, like I said, I'm a guy of oh, okay, that's cool, but what does that actually mean in the real world? There's definitely a change to rewards and how much they generate, and what impact is that? Is that a good thing, a bad thing? Does it affect people? Doesn't affect people? Just wanted to understand more of those consequences. Anyway, sorry.
It's all good. Cool. Let's move on to the reliability and performance dashboard. Elite Encoder. Can you give us? I'll quickly do a segue. Phase 1 of the reliability and performance dashboard grant has been funded. So my conversation there with Nelson, he didn't want to fund the whole thing because it was incomplete, and I just said, hey, like, let's just do it phase by phase. So he's agreed to that. So phase 1 is all about allowing an array of price per pixels for specific broadcasters and for all broadcasters, which is just a general upgrade I think would be great for the whole network in general. So John, do you want to talk us a little bit how far you've gotten, where you're at, and give us an update?
Yeah, since Brad's not on, I'll be glad to give an update. I know Brad's done a lot of the work, and I've joined him last week and making a few commits to the code. We got a nice testing setup going with the Rinkeby orchestrator and broadcaster. So we've been able to run several different tests. What we have implemented right now is a price per broadcaster flag. You can pass a JSON string to it, and it includes the orchestrator's or the broadcaster's ETH address and the price per pixel to charge them. And that can be an array, so you can have multiple broadcasters defined there with different prices. And the default price per pixel flag is used as the primary, and then those prices from that price per broadcaster will override for specific broadcasters. So we've actually tested this out, and it's working well. It's passing several different tests. Right now, what we're working through is the best way to parse that, because like the JSON structure is kind of a big glob of data to try to put together in a CLI flag. There is an interface that's been developed over HTTP, so you can change the price while the orchestrator is running through the CLI port. And so we have that working as well, and that does take a JSON content type. It's pretty standard. One thing we're looking to do is to add the ability to keep that JSON configuration in a file and parse that in. That's I think what we're working on this week, and then also writing up the automated tests and getting, I think, a PR submitted. I haven't talked to Brad really much about the next steps, but I think that we should be ready to put a PR through sometime this week. I know we need to write, like I said, some automated tests for that. And we're going to continue testing, and part of this nitro upgrade, impacts us, I think, with the Rinkeby testnet. We need to get over to earlier this week. But that's where we're at. I'll be glad to answer any other questions you have.
I'm super excited for this because personally, I'm going to be setting the price per pixel for public broadcasters on the Titan node pool to like 400 or 500 to give it that 20, 30, or 50x cheaper than Amazon, because we have so much capacity. Why not? And then for Livepeer Inc., I can specifically set their broadcaster to 1199 or whatever, right? And so therefore, if you come in with an open source broadcaster node, you get the benefit. But then the Livepeer Inc. broadcaster, which we all know what their price is set to, I can still stream for them based on the information I have from them, right? So
I love that idea. That's going to really help grow the eco. Go ahead.
Sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
No, I was just wondering, how would a broadcaster know the difference between prices? Like when you set it in your config, how does anyone know that?
Yeah, so through the testing that we've done, there is a log message that shows up on the broadcaster side. It doesn't happen initially when it connects, but as it goes through, it sends little tickets, like payment tickets. And there's a log message associated with that. And it'll say what the price per pixel was that was charged in the ticket. So there are some logs. We may need to improve that a little bit so that maybe like the moment that the stream connects to the orchestrator, that it logs the price. I think that's a good improvement, but there is feedback on both sides. In fact, on the orchestrator, we have it logging out, what price it's sent to a certain broadcaster ETH address. And of course you can see on the broadcaster side too.
I'm pretty sure the broadcaster collects all the orchestrator's price per pixel in its discovery selection phase. So when the broadcaster initially creates its working set of orchestrators to work with, it will send out with its ping. It gets their distance, but it also gets the price per pixel that they're offering, and then based on your configuration, it creates a working set. So if you're above the max price per pixel, then you don't get included in the working set.
Yeah, that's true. I remember seeing that there was some ping activity, even when the broadcaster wasn't sending any work. There was logs coming in on the orchestrator side that it was checking. So yeah, that makes sense. I mean, overall development's going really well, and I was even able to write up a guide to kind of help other developers on board a little bit with some tooling and stuff. Because it was an experience for me to get everything set up and running, but it's a really great setup. We can actually like debug our code in our Linux systems in our data center. In theory, you could debug production code. I mean, it's that flexible in terms of the ability to do development. So very realistic test environment that we have today.
What's really nice, I think, about this upgrade is if we do have an open source broadcaster that wants to come out and test out the network, say with Papa Bear or Mike Zupper, and they wanted to contact you directly, well, now you can set that broadcaster node to 0 wave per pixel, and they can now test out mainnet Livepeer transcoding without having to use testnet in a testing environment. So you can set your max price. John, if you set your max price per pixel as a broadcaster to 0, will it just pick up everyone that has theirs at 0, and then that'll create the working set?
I haven't tried that yet. I have had an orchestrator running in testnet with price per pixel 0, but I've never tried that on the broadcaster side. I'll make sure to run some tests and get back to you on that.
Because we don't want the broadcaster to set theirs at max price per pixel 0 to try it out for free, right? And then have some sort of conflict where it doesn't add everyone into the working set that is at 0.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I would expect that it's going to if a broadcaster was to set the price per pixel 0, they would only be able to send work to orchestrators that also have their set to 0 at the very least. Yeah. Sounds correct.
Might want to just test that.
Yeah, I'll run some tests today.
And then on top of that, if they have their price per pixel set to 0, do they still have to have the deposit requirement? Probably, hey?
I don't think so. I was helping to onboard someone on testnet a few weeks back, and he had trouble getting his deposit in there. And I said, well, let me just set my price per pixel to 0 on testnet. And then he was able to broadcast to it. So it might circumvent that. We can run some tests there as well.
Because if we can avoid having an open source broadcaster create a deposit at all, and then can still test mainnet, that would be very, very helpful, I think.
That's good feedback. Thanks. I'll make sure to test that scenario. Just to build on that idea, my experience trying to onboard, it was this guy in Spain, a couple weeks ago, and he was trying to start broadcasting with Livepeer and was really confused about how to get started. He didn't want to, put the deposit in just to find out whether or not it would work. And there didn't seem to be a lot of people operating on testnet. So I stood it all up for him. But throughout that process, he was really thankful and very happy that I was able to help him because we got it working. And he was like, "Is it okay if I use your orchestrator for a little while for free?" I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." And he's like, "Well, when I get some LPT, I'm going to delegate to your node and all that." I said, "Well, the number one thing for me is like if if your website gets up running really good and you do move over to mainnet, we would love to be one of your primary providers. It's so I think that's kind of it's an opportunity for us as orchestrators. What if your website had like a sign up form and someone could sign up to try before they buy? We start thinking about it as a marketplace. That might be an opportunity, to onboard broadcasters.
And what I'd like to, and if we do create that, I'd like to try and make a broadcaster node as simple to set up as, say, my Titan node pool for orchestrators. Like, you don't need command line interfaces. You just double click, it gives you some prompts and away you go, right? So it'd be like, free livepeerbroadcaster.com, and you download a compiled Python script, and you just double click the thing and enter the parameters you need, and it already sets your price per pixel to 0, and you can just start using people that have opted in. Just try it for free, see if you like it. No upfront costs, no commitments, just see if you like it, and then you could rate limit them to if you've got too many streams going out or whatever. But I think that's...
both. Yeah, exactly. Both on the we've added obviously the orchestrator address as the authentication mechanism, but I was reading the documentation, trying to help out that the broadcaster mentioned earlier get his authentication endpoint working for the RTMP. And I discovered that there isn't the same authentication available for orchestrators. So you can actually set that up. I'm not sure how we can leverage that, but it might be an option. I was thinking about, at least in testnet, you could have, if you're trying to set up something that's free, there's some kind of authentication to get it to it. But at least we have the orchestrator address part, right? So, or the broadcaster address. So they'll be able to submit that on your form, and then you add them to your list of that free special pricing and get up and going.
But wait, there's more. You get 2 free knives and a spatula, all for free.
Extra postage and handling, though.
Just pay for postage and handling. Oh, I love it. Cool. That's a really, really great update. I appreciate Elite. As soon as you guys have submitted your pull requests, I believe then it gets compiled into the next release when it does. Is that correct? It gets accepted, I guess, or something like that?
Yeah, that's how I understand it. And one of the most important requirements is we do have to write automated tests and run those and provide those as evidence in the PR. So that'll be a big area of work for us this week, I think.
So what you're saying is the 40 hours we originally quoted probably wasn't enough still.
I'm not sure. I've maybe spent like 7 hours total, and a lot of that was just setup time. I think Brad spent much more time there, but we're probably pretty close to that target currently in hours.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad, because originally Brad said 5 hours, and I was like, no, let's do it right. So anyway, we got funded for the phase 1. So as soon as you guys, I guess, get the pull request accepted, and then it gets ready for to be compiled, then I'll get the grants committee to pay you guys directly, which is great.
It's awesome. It's been a great experience. I mean, I've now I know the way that's structured, and I think there's an opportunity to make a lot of our orchestrator options where you can change them while it's running. Think about like stream limit and stuff. There's a lot of opportunity now that I've had a chance to look at the code and knowing a lot of the challenges that orchestrators have faced. Including my own. I've got a whole laundry list of ideas to develop next once we finish with this.
Very cool. Very excited for that. Okay, well, that is the update from the reliability and performance dashboard. I know that the discussion thread has been dead for a while, just because I stopped doing weekly updates, weekly calls around it, just because we actually submitted the proposal, and I figured we would just start working through it. So we got funding for it, and we're going to push through. But yeah, as for phase 2, it sounds like there's opportunity to continue. If Brad and John are interested in continuing down that road onto phase 2, we might need some more help with Prometheus and the stream tester script for phase 2. So if people have experience with that, it might be able to help them, bring them onto the team, and then we can even request a bit more money for all that.
I did want to mention I think it was Marco that had developed an Orchestrator watcher tool or something a few weeks ago. It looked very similar to what we were targeting with the reliability dashboard. I just wanted to see whether there might be some overlap or how we can build upon that. Just want to make sure everyone was aware of it. I have seen like some tests come through. It looks like I have like constant stream somewhere. I'm not sure how that works. It's very similar.
There probably won't be overlap because my node only it does the discovery request and no further than that. So it's really superficial information, and the actual test is going to give us much more info. So, but they can definitely help each other out. It's good. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. That helps. So it's not really a video stream at all that it's testing with. It's just discovery.
Yeah. So, but it's still very useful, right? Because that's also the way the broadcaster makes a discovery set. So it's good to have that information out there. And because it's very simple, it's very easy to scale it, and we can run it in a lot of different locations. But we only get the price per pixel and the ping and some more basic info.
Yeah, I looked at that. It was super helpful.
Can I? My bad, guys. I was working, but did I hear some conversation around creating endpoints that had to be that somebody would be listed for approval for, and keeping those private? It was on the past. It was the past 2 minutes of discussion. I was working on something else, but I heard that and it was interesting. And I just wanted to say for Xenon, we are working on, or we implemented a way to basically have a recording endpoint or a broadcast endpoint be gated.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there is some documentation available. Livepeer supports an auth webhook URL, and what that does, it goes on your broadcaster flag, and it will forward some information like the stream name and the stream key over to any kind of web endpoint that you want to build. I've used PHP before, and then that script would return either a 200 response or something else like a 401 unauthorized. You can parse that data from the post and use that to authenticate a broadcaster coming into your ingest point. So maybe an opportunity to reuse an existing wheel rather than inventing a new one.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not a developer. I'm sure that our developers implemented that, but yeah, having kind of gated allow listed live streams is a really cool idea.
I just threw in the Orchestrator water cooler chat, just a template of obviously what maybe could work for the dashboard on it, app.livepeer.academy. Obviously it's not live and just a template, but just having something where there's the segments sent, the segments received, uptime percentage, the cost of it, and then the actual live feed itself, and then you can compare all the different orchestrators in a list, and then maybe throw Amazon in there as a comparison, and so people can see that. Or you also include the default selection algorithm as a comparison, so you can almost have just a lot of different things. I don't know. Or just parse this information into Prometheus and let you Grafana ninjas create some awesome dashboards. Cool. All right. This is a great update with the performance dashboard. Excited for that. If anyone wants to also work on phase 3 potentially, which is the Amazon side of things, which is calculating the performance of Amazon, there's a grant in there for you for phase 3. If you want to learn how to stream through Amazon and somehow collect metrics on its reliability, that would be good. Okay, we've been at this for a while. I do have to go, and we are actually out of all of our topics, so I think we'll just end it there. Do we have any last comments before we sign off for this water cooler chat?
I was just curious. I've been having just ever since the low bit rate profile came out. It's just been it's never been smooth where it just seems to work for me. I get Orchestrator busy, the segments come in out of order. Does anyone actually have that working? Does it work for you guys, or is it? I mean, I've seen other people have issues with it, but it seems to never work for me. And that's across different nodes running different OSs, different setups. So I can't imagine it's unique to me, but has anyone looked through the logs and seen anything like that?
I get plenty of Orchestrator busy errors, but they have been not going on for so long. I haven't thought too much about it other than just trying to optimize our system resource usage and stuff.
If when you do happen to notice them, can you pay attention, see if you notice that they're, I mean, I seem to only notice them on the low bit rate profile. So I was just, maybe there's just something that in that profile that's an issue, but I don't have enough info to take that to give that to anybody on the team to say, hey, yeah, it's definitely that. Although I've said I have problems with all of them, but it'd be good if there was a couple more that could back that up.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find any patterns there.
Yeah, so I guess for anyone, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, John. Go ahead.
Well, I know Titan had opened an issue about segments being out of order on remote transcoders a couple months or weeks ago. It's kind of interesting. You mentioned out of order segments. That would seem to be a rather new issue. I
commented on that, and I've noticed that it's always the low bit rate where that happens, and
okay.
And I'm wondering if maybe for whatever reason that the segments are coming in out of order, if that's what's causing the orchestrator to show as busy, which technically I guess it should really be the transcoders busy, but I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I mean, I used to see it on split setups, and they didn't come in that often. It was okay, whatever. But I mean, over the weekend, I was getting them on all my nodes, split, combined. So on a combined machine, it just seemed really odd that would happen. I mean, I can understand on a split one that maybe there was, some latency issues, but yeah. So I guess just if anyone's looking through logs and happens to notice that orchestrator busy and notices that it ties into a low bit rate profile, if you could maybe make a post about it or add to the GitHub on it.
So, as far as I know, you are right in saying that if they get in out of order, you will get that orchestrated busy error. But that's all I know about it so far as well. It's a fault in the file-based approach that Livepeer has, but we're all switching to a stream-based approach in hopefully sooner rather than later.
All right. Well, then I guess I'll just ride it out.
I'll add some notes if I find anything.
Cool. Okay, everyone, we'll end it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here for this week's Water Cooler Chat. And we will see you all next week. Cheers.
Bye, guys.